Bhagavan Shri Krishna said, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirabhavati bharata abhyuthama dharmasya tadatmanam srujamyaham. He continued, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chidushkrutam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. He said, Arjuna, whenever there is a decline in righteous living, an increase in the wrong type of living everywhere, I bring myself into being by assuming a physical body. I do that for the protection of those committed to dharma and destruction of those who follow adharma. And for re-establishment of dharma, I come back every age, every yuga. Although Brahman assumes a form of avatara, it is not bound by the laws of karma, unlike human beings. A divine incarnation is never controlled by the forces of karma, nor is his body caused by any prarabdha karma. God, in order to incarnate on the earth in human form, creates an earthly body for himself through his inscrutable magical power or maya and enters into it. By this maya, he gives others the impression that he is born of human parents. Out of compassion for his creatures who take refuge in him, he absorbs their sins or bad karma in his earthly body and suffers on their behalf. He works out bad prarabdha karma to give them the relief and enlightenment. Divine incarnation does not generate any karma phala, fruits of action, for whatever action he does during his earthly existence. I mean, what I've just translated in a paraphrase form, he said in the verse just prior to the yada yada dharmasya, he said, Ajopi sannavyayatma bhutanam ishwaropi san prakritim swamadhishtaya sambhavami atmamaya. Even though being one who is unborn, ajopi, one whose knowledge does not wane, sannavyayatma, also being the Lord of all living beings, bhutanam ishwara api san, still wielding my prakriti, prakritim swamadhishtaya, sambhavami atmamaya. I, as though, come into being by own creative power, my mysterious power, maya. That's the 6th verse of the same chapter. Interestingly, till such rare occasions that Bhagavan himself incarnates, the saints, the enlightened individuals, fulfill those responsibilities while addressing the prarabdha karmas which resulted in their births. Indian subcontinent has been truly blessed with several such individuals over the centuries. We thought it would be interesting to study their life stories and learn some lessons from their life and how we can apply them in our daily life in this new year of 2021. We welcomed Puja Swami Dayanand Saraswati, who has been Guru for Kumbhuda and myself and also for Professor Ram Bachchan at our new temple for the first time. Of course, as you know, he had visited our old temple and luckily for me, I had the privilege to give him the tour of the new temple. He had visited literally thousands of temples in his lifetime, and even had casually poo-pooed visiting here in Minneapolis when some of our devotees had reminded him of his upcoming visit in the Gurukulam just a few days prior to his visit. He had said, laughing, smiling, yeah, I got one more new temple to visit. However, when he visited our temple, he was amazed with the grandeur of the architecture, the spaciousness of the temple hall, and the beauty of each of the deity, each one in their independent shrines. He was very impressed. Many of these shrines, which were identical replicas of the famous temples from India. During that tour, as we reached one of the shrines, it just happened to be that of Rama Parivar, as he was looking at those beautiful deities brought to life following the consecration ceremonies, he turned to me and said, Dr. Sane, he seems to always call me Dr. Sane till the very last day. Kumudan, I had a chance to put him on the air ambulance to go to Rishikesh in 2015. He said, Dr. Sane, this temple is some special vastu. I feel very, very strong vibrations here. This temple is something special. I shall come here any time. Personally, Kumud and I enjoy those spiritual vibrations every visit. We sit quietly with our eyes closed in our temple hall for as long as we can. And after a little while, our minds settle down when we gain amazing tranquility and we truly feel refreshed and recharged. We both have been blessed to have visited many other famous temples in India, Nepal, for that matter, all around the world, where we have experienced very similar spiritual vibrations. But there's only one place that has given us when greater intense vibrations than our own temple. That place is the temple hall of Vithoba in Pandharpur. We remember very distinctly, clearly, we had arrived there at 2 o'clock in the morning, driving by car after having had a full day of work in Mumbai. We had just taken the darshan of Vithoba and sat down quietly in the temple hall. We sat there with eyes closed, and mine was focused on that murti that we had just seen. And we felt those special spiritual vibrations that have been the most intense in our life experience. We recognize that those vibrations were strictly related to all the saints we call Sant in Marathi, who have visited the temple, and of course, year after year, the devotees we call Varkaris have been visiting the temple for centuries. So comes to the reason why I'm discussing this topic first, because of those special place of worship that we enjoyed the most. In the late 13th century, a large group of individuals would fulfill all the requirements of sainthood. Well, what is that? As I see it, is absolute faith and utter devotion to God, complete absence of egotism, greed, or lust, and their lives were perfect examples of humility, universal love, and service of the society. They would gather together daily in this Pandharpur temple and rejoice together in utter devotion, singing devotional songs, abhangas, ovis, and a variety of other prayers. But in addition to singing in a very devoted fashion, they would have fun with each other as well, just like all the friends do when they get together. All of them harbored neither pride nor possessions. They were humble to the point of belittling themselves, which is indeed all the more astonishing considering their backgrounds. There are people who were artisans. For example, Namdev was come from the family of a tailor. There was Gora Kumbhar making pottery or making the bricks, laying the bricks. There's a gardener of South Tamali. There was a maid servant, Janabai. The barber whose name was Sona. There's a goldsmith called Narari, and I could go on for 20 more, the people who gathered together. And of course, a learned Brahmin and fully realized individual Gyaneshwar and his brilliant siblings were there as well. Gyaneshwar's elder brother and Guru Nivrati, younger brother Sopan, and lively Muktabai. At this time, when I'm describing those times, Gyaneshwar had completed his daily discourses in Nevashe, which were given to those in local language so that ordinary folks could easily understand very well, rather than using the traditional Sanskrit as all the Brahmin Pandit did that time. All these discourses, amazingly, were in the form of poetry and consisted of about 9,000 OVs. Later, it was compiled by Eknath about 250 years later as Bhavartha Deepika. His entire life story and his teachings we'll discuss in later sessions. But let's stay, for the time being, with those gatherings that I was referring to. When they got together, they would bow down to one another in great reverence, hug one another once in a while, but always paid respect to the elders in the group. One day, as they gathered, Namdev, who was known for his special relationship with Vitoba, came late and sat down. We were observing the usual tradition of bowing down. I mentioned, my notes basically say that I'll tell the story some other time, but then I think I'll tell the story about relationship of Namdev right now. When he was very young, he would regularly go with his father to the temple, and father would carry with him a prasad as an offering to Vitova and do his prayers, and Namdev youngster would do exactly the same, eyes closed, praying, knowing that he was praying to God. One day so happened that his father had gone out of town, and his mother said, "Why don't you take it to the temple and offer the prasad to Vitova and bring it back?" This boy was so proud that he had a chance to offer the prasad himself. So he walks slowly to the temple, places in front of Vitova, closes his eyes, continues his prayer that he always did when he went with his father. Opens his eyes after 5 minutes, and prasad is still there in the dish. He again tells Vitova, "Vitova, are you mad with me because my father is not there? I'll feel bad if you don't eat. My mother will get angry if I don't give you the prasad." Vitova was so moved with the love of these youngsters, his devotion to Vitova, that he appeared in the live form and ate the prasad. He was so happy to see the beautiful live Vitova in front of him, eating the prasad with great relish and smiling at him, giving him blessings. He was rejoiced. He came home and kept the dish in front of the mother. The mother said, "How come the dish is empty?" Namdev said, "Mom, Vitova ate, and that's why the dish is empty." It's interesting how the mothers who know their children were surprised because the prasad always came back, but he did not want to believe that Namdev was telling the lie. So when Namdev's father showed up that evening, she quietly told him the story as to what happened. Again, the parents understand their children, and when they tell them something, they don't say just total lie. So he said next day when they were going to the temple, he took Namdev with him again as usual. "You know what, Nama? Yesterday you gave the prasad and Vitova ate. How about you offering him today too?" Sure enough, he said, "I'll be happy." And he offered him. And of course, Namdev could not see Vitova come out and eat the prasad. At 5 minutes, he started crying. He said, "Vitova, if you don't come out and eat the prasad, My parents will think I was lying to them. So please don't make me appear as a liar to my parents. I mean, his prayer was so sincere, his love and devotion was so intense that Vitthava appeared one more time, giving darshan to, of course, Namdev and also to his father, and ate the prasad. His father was so pleased, so happy to see the Vitthava in live form, and patted his son, and both of them came back sharing that experience. So that is the special relationship with Namdev. But again, something to remember. So as he came and sat down, without bowing down to his friends as usual, everyone had noticed his behavior, but had said nothing. But the youngest of them sometimes are pretty lively, and I'm not ashamed about calling spade a spade. Muktabai was the youngest. She blurted out, "What's wrong with Nama today? Does he think he's so special? Maybe we should see if everybody's okay today." Again, as the tradition was then, they turned to Gora Kumbar, Gora the pottery maker, who was the oldest of the group, and asked him, "Why don't you check if everybody is okay or not today?" Typical the Kumbhars, if we are preparing the pots, they carry with them a stick with them, which is split at the tip, and they hit on the pot and see, yeah, this part is ready, or this part is not quite ready. They know that peculiar sound that comes when everything is ready, and they know which is not ready. So he went one by one, hit very hard on the head of Nivrati, and Nivrati remained very quiet and silent, and yeah, he's ready. Called the same thing Gyandev, and Gyandev was smiling, and he said, he's ready. Went on till the time he came Namdev. Hit him in his head. Did it a couple of times. I don't think he's quite ready. He needs to have some additional education. He should go and get education from Visoba Khechar, who is in a Shiva temple at such and such a place. The importance of that is he was trying to emphasize on Namdev that you're a great devotee, but even then, you still need a living teacher or a guru to gain the true knowledge. And Namdev accepted the recommendation of Gora, the oldest of the group, and then appeared in front of the Shiva temple, because Visoba is to live in a small shack next to the temple. So he goes to that place, looks out for Visoba, and what is he doing? He's an old man, sprawled in the Shiva temple, with his foot on the top of the Shiva lingam. Again, Namdev's ego cropped up, and he questioned in his mind as to what this dirty individual was going to teach him after all. Again, respectfully, he asked Visoba, "Please take the foot off the Shiva lingam." Visoba said in a tired voice, I know not the right thing to do that for me, but I'm so old, I do not have any strength or energy to take my foot away. You kindly lift it for me and place it where Shiva lingam is not there." Namdev was kind of angry, a little arrogant, but he picked up his foot and put away from the lingam and placed it gently on the ground nearby. Sure enough, immediately a new Shiva lingam came, pushing the foot upwards again. One more time, then he came to realize that God is present every place. God permeates the entire creation, and God is present in everybody in equal amounts all the time. So you should be respectful for everybody. No one is superior, nobody is inferior. So you need a living guru to gain the knowledge. So that's the story about Namdev. All these people I was referring to, in their simple ways, had transcended dualism and soared in the domain of formless, infinite bliss as they continue to do their own work. For example, when Gora Kumbar would do, he'll be dancing there, jumping on the soft mud to prepare that special mud ready for creating those parts. When Sautamali, the gardener, would be working in the garden, he'll be thinking about the water, the well, the bucket, the ropes, everything but God. And he would say, everything that I see in my garden is Bhagwan's Leela, is God's creation. The creation, and they would connect themselves with the image of Vithoba Panduranga. And unfortunately, very little is known about these wonderful human beings who brought the special sanctity to that temple. And I'll try to share some of them. Obviously cannot share all of them as we go along. So I don't know how many sessions it will take, but I thought should start the discussion on Marathi Saints with the story of Gyaneshwar. But again, I cannot start with story of Gyaneshwar with a story about his birth, starting with his parents. So here it goes. His father's name was Vitthal Pant. But let me set a stage for you. Vitthal Pant, bright, young, good-looking man with good physique, is waiting patiently at a sacred ashrama in Banaras, Kashi. Ashram that a renowned scholar, Swami Ramananda, and hoping that he would come out of the ashram so he could bow down to him and ask for a favor of becoming a disciple. These wise individuals always are very observant. And Swami Ramananda had noticed him through the window, this bright young man with a serene composure, performing his morning prayers, facing the eastward sun. As he came out, Vitthal Pant quickly and reverentially prostrated before Swami Ramananda, requested to accept him as his disciple in Kashi. When asked about his background, he answered that he was a Yajurvedi Brahmin from Appegaon in Maharashtra and claimed elderly parents back in the village as his only dependents. The Guru, pleased with his humility, fearlessness, sincerity, and deep feeling of renunciation, accepted him as a disciple. He gave him sannyasa and named him Chaitanya Swami. Soon he became his favorite and foremost of Ramananda's disciples, and everything seemed to go very, very well. However, there's one great error of omission that Vitthal Pant had committed. He had lied to his Guru and purposefully omitted mentioning that he was married and that he had left his young wife back home against her wishes. Again, he would ask his wife whether he could take sannyasa when he was back in home. And she said, no, not till the time I have a son. Kept on asking every day. One of those days when she really got fed up, he asking the same question every day. He said, go. Use that particular answer yes to go down to Kashi. As the destiny would have it, Swami Ramananda decided to go on a long pilgrimage of the south, culminating in the darshan of Holy Rameshwar. He left his disciple Chaitanya Swami in charge of the mutt in Kashi and traveled with a small group of disciples and reached a charming little city of Alankapur, presently known as Alandi. As he rested in Hanuman temple on the shore of the small lake, Rukmabai, wife of Vitthal Pant, now of course Chaitanya Swami, had come there for her daily rounds of prayers and circumambulations around the old Ashwatha tree, Pimple we call it. Seeing the holy man and his disciples in the temple, she dutifully touched the feet of the Swami while he casually gave her a blessing normally given to the married men. May you be the mother of a son. Rukmabai could not help smiling. Rukmabai could not help smiling, for she had good reasons to know the futility of such blessings on her. Ramanand noticed her smile and asked her rather abruptly, "Daughter, why do you smile at my blessings?" Rukmabai's eyes filled with tears as she exclaimed, "O Holy One, how can your words come true when my husband has left me without my consent, has become a sannyasi in Kashi?" Swami Ramanand was shocked. "I cannot utter a lie. My words must come true." He then learned from Siddhapant, who happened to be accompanying Rukmini Bai that day. Siddhapant was Rukmini Bai's father. That he had heard that Swami who had given him sannyasa was named Ramananda, without actually knowing that the Swami was talking to himself was Ramananda. He took both Rukmini Bai and her father with him to Kashi that very day to confront his disciple for abandoned his pilgrimage, did not go down to Rameshwar, but returned back to Kashi. He confronted Chaitanya Swami, who welcomed him profusely. He glowered in anger. "As you see, we come back rather early. We've been to Alankapur." Disciple began to shake with fear. Guru Ramanand continued, "Do you know who these people are? Your wife and her father Siddhapant. So you lied to me. You lied to your own Guru." Vittalpant threw himself at the mercy of the Guru. They prostrate before him, clutching his feet of the Swami. "My Lord, please show mercy. I shall only forgive you if you obey my orders. Rise and go to Alankapur. Take your sorrowing wife and raise a family. That's all." He placed his hands on his head, who was a penitent disciple, as a parting blessing, and then dismissed him. Back in Alankapur, the joy of Rukmini Bai and her father knew no bounds, but was not quite shared for the rest of the town, who looked horrified at this event of sannyasi returning back to life of a samsari. The Brahmins in particular decided to ostracize him. Vittalpant and Rukmini Bai moved to the outskirts of the town, built a small hut on a small piece of land, and stayed there. Having transgressed the laws of the society, they were made to pay for it through countless harassments from the local population. Vittalpant, a very saintly individual, bore it all with his dutiful wife without a murmur. During those times, they continued their spiritual journey, studying scriptures together, and those times very trying. Another 12 years passed before their children were born in Apega. The story is a little different. Some people say they were born in Apega, they were visiting. Other people say they were born in Alankapur. The distance between those two towns is about 216 kilometers or 135 miles. In any case, Nivrati was born in 1273. Gyaneshwar was born in 1275. Sopan was born in 1277. The youngest Muktabai was born in 1279. Again, their names also were given very carefully by the parents. Name Nivrati means controller of the senses. Gyaneshwar means one who has attained the knowledge. Sopan means who weighs the way to live once you have divine knowledge. And Mukta means culmination of all these three, leading to liberation and freedom. All these four children were taught by their parents, and their grasp of spiritual paths was literally astonishing, considering their very, very young age. Vitalpad wanted his children to undergo sacred ceremony. Remember, he didn't say only 3 boys. He wanted all 4 of them to have sacred ceremony. And visited local Brahmins and with due humility requested them to perform the ceremonies. Himself was very learned. He said, I'm sorry that I had to return back from the life of sannyasi to that of becoming a sansari because of my omission of the fact that I was married to my spiritual guru in Kashi. I was wrong. I'm willing to atone for my sins in any way you want me to. But since our children are innocent, let them not pay and suffer on our behalf. The Pandits agreed, but could not find any specific reference for a specific punishment for him in the sacred books. And they suggested, you know what? You should go to Pratisthana. Now it's called Paitan, where the cream of the Pandits lives at the present time. Well, then they proceeded in that direction and left Trambakeshwara temple, which is near Nashik on the banks of the river Godavari river, the same river that flows from Apega. The family began their series of austerities after arriving at the temple, circumambulating Brahmapuri mountains every day, well before the sunrise, and then performing prayers and worship at the temple. Remember, this temple is Shiva temple, and one of the 12 famous Jyotirlingas in the Indian subcontinent. One day, as the pious family wended its way through the pre-dawn mist, the narrow hill paths, the roars of an angry tiger transfixed them in terror. As the beast left in their middle, they all fled with shrieks of fear. All reached home safely except Nivrati, of whom there was no trace. With deep sorrow in their hearts, they continued to resume their penance, including their daily circumambulations to the same mountains. But as the luck would have it, Nivrati had not been touched by the tiger. He had escaped by various mountain paths and found himself completely lost. He chanced to reach a mouth of a deep cave where he saw yogis and wild beasts living together in perfect harmony. We have seen the same thing in Thailand as well during one of our tours. He was intrigued and he penetrated deeper in that cave until he met a yogi has a shining, brilliant appearance on his face. He was seated in deep meditation. In a couple of minutes, Yogi opened his eyes and met the eyes of that 10-year-old boy. The Yogi was struck by the high estate of wisdom, awareness, sincerity, and potentialities in Nivrati. When the boy told him who he was, the Yogi smiled and spoke affectionately. As a matter of fact, connection-wise, his grandfather was given Diksha by this Yogi's teacher, Gaininath. So he continues, this Yogi, I'm Gaininath, disciple of Gorakshanath. My guru had foreseen your coming and told me to initiate you into the sacred knowledge of the Atman self, and that you in turn pass on the knowledge to your middle brother. My guru's words are being fulfilled. I'm so happy. So saying, he gently placed his hand on the head of Nivrati, who lay prostrate at his feet, ready to receive the sense of the true knowledge in the path of yoga. Nivrati must have been an exceptional pupil. For merely in 7 days, Girinath completed his teachings and again reminded him, because when the teacher teaches you, ask you questions and you respond to it, so the teacher knows that you understood it clearly. He realized that in 7 days, He has mastered the entire teachings, Ganinath, he has received from his teacher Gorakshanath, and is very, very happy. And then reminded Nivrati, make certain that teach the same to your brother Gyaneshwar. For Jnanadeva has a mission to fulfill in this world, and he will be the guide of many people. Brimming with the renewed life, freed from the guilt of his family and elated with joy, Nivrati reached home where he was received with open arms and the tears of relief and happiness. He duly fulfilled his pledge to his Guru, initiated Gyaneshwar under the sacred, an ancient Audumbar tree by the river Godavari. The same tree, according to stories, once had sheltered the great Rishi Gautama. Later, Gyaneshwar passed on that knowledge to his younger brother Sopan and that lovely youngest sister Muktabai. The Shivlingam in Trambakeshwar appeared only to appease the anger of Gautama Rishi. Yet another story for some other time. I won't tell you right now. Again, remember, I mentioned one of the 12 top Shiva temples. Now, Vittal Pant, well rehearsed in Vedas and Upanishads, had taken care of education of his children, perfecting them in Sanskrit and Marathi. They resided at Trambakeshwar temple till Gyaneshwar became full-fledged and adept to the Eightfold Yoga at a tender age of 8 years. By then, he had transformed his understanding and fully grasped and integrated the meaning of Brahman in his personality, and also experienced the Shakti that came to him from the Nath Sampradaya to Nivrati. So he had combination of both the Vaishnava Sampradaya as well as the Shaivite Sampradaya. His face shone brightness, stage as we call it, of realization, the brilliance of realization. His heart and mind were completely at peace. His parents had noticed the changes in his appearance and also the spiritual growth of Sopan and Muktabai as went along. Amazing those decisions must be at that time. The parents were very happy how spiritually advanced the children were getting, how Nivrati was enlightened, and he had helped get Gyaneshwar to get enlightened as well. Then these parents suffered all their life, decided to leave their children to fend for themselves, and decided to take the path of renunciation and ultimate sacrifice. They went northwards and plunged into deep waters at Prayag, at the confluence of three rivers, Ganga, Yamuna, and the invisible Saraswati, to end their lives of sorrow and mortification. In Trambakeshwar, the grieving children decided to leave that place for Paitan, situated by the Bhogavati river, in order to redeem their parents' name from the wrongs of the society. I mean, look, even though the parents had left, they wanted to make sure that the parents were not blamed, not given bad names for what they had done. They brought with them a letter from the Brahmins in Alankapur. As they reached the place after a long journey on foot in hot sun, they're totally exhausted, but the local Pandits came to the rescue, refreshed them with water, food, sweet words, and inquired as to the purpose of coming from so far, and that too alone as young children. Nivrati handed over the letter from Brahmins in Alankapur that they had carried with them for quite a while. It was all read amidst a hue and cry of shame, or in Marathi say che, the Mata is in Marathi, by stating that whoever heard of such a thing, of a sannyasi getting married and becoming grihasti again, they convened a great meeting in the main temple hall and started to pour through the holy books. At first, they told them, kindly do good works, repeat God's name, do regular japas, do the prayers, and always tell the truth. The children were very, very happy. They continued doing the japa, and continue to pray and sit quietly and continue to what they have been told. They fulfill all the requirements for quite some time. And when they press for formal letter of purification for their parents and themselves, so they can have sacred ceremony, those Brahmins piled on further abuse on these poor young children. When they continue to pile that kind of insults on them, Nivrati cried in that assembly, "Who cares for caste, race, or creed? I'm myself fearless, I'm nameless, formless Atman, which resides in every creature. I'm mortal, I'm immortal, neither with or without form." Absolutely true, said Gyaneshwar. You know what? Sopan said they are ashamed of us. They consider us impure. What is the purity of Rishi Vyasa and Valmiki? What is the caste of Pandavas? What is in the name? Asked Gyaneshwar. When nothing exists outside the one infinite Brahman, my Atman is no different from yours or from that passing buffalo. At that, the Pandits were greatly amused and taunted the boy, saying, if buffalo is as much a part of Atman as you, let us hear from him that buffalo recite Vedas. Why not? Said Gyaneshwar. All things belong to the same Brahman, who has no caste and breathes through them each and every one of them. Take care, warned the Brahmins, not to trifle with our sacred scriptures. If what you say is true, then the buffalo should be able to recite Vedas. My lord, Gyaneshwar said to the head priest, permit me to say that as divinity resides in all things, whether awake or dormant, does it even an humble buffalo? All the learned men started laughing. Hey, over there, drive that buffalo in that hall. The buffalo was dragged in the circle of the large audience, and Pandits repeatedly, hauntingly asked Gyaneshwar to make that animal, the he buffalo, recite Vedas. He kept looking at them. When they continued repeating their request or keep on bugging him, Gyaneshwar said, so be it. His white face did not seem perturbed, and he merely turned to the helpless beast, the he buffalo, painted on his forehead, smiling affectionately, asked him gently, the true self which resides in all things abides in you. If the true self which resides in all things abides in you, speak the truth to all who are present here. Then Gyaneshwar began to recite the passage from Rigveda, mantras extolling the inner meaning of the word Om. And the buffalo took over and completed the verses in deep and clear voice. Silence filled the meeting hall. All the Brahmins, including the head priest, head Pandit, remained speechless and sat as if stuck to their seats. As all the individuals witnessing everything, with the tears streaming down their faces, rushed towards their Gyaneshwar, took out their turbans, and Gyaneshwar was simply smiling gently on them, placed their heads on his slender feet. Then the head Pandit got up. Forgive us. We have been steeped in ignorance and arrogance. You indeed are the master of divine knowledge, realized soul and true saint. Blessed be thy parents and blessed thy clan for giving birth to such a wise one, such as you. We humbly request you to forgive us. Gyaneshwar, embarrassed by this great show of respect and pleased with the change of their heart and humility, spoke humbly and kindly to reassure them all. The Pandits gave him the seat of honor and carried him out in process. They gave Nivrati a letter for the learned man in Lankapur, saying that themselves were not fit to make Brahmins these individuals who already are far above them represented the very essence of Brahman. They gifted the buffalo to children and wished them farewell once again. The little family moved on its way. They wandered along the passing beautiful places, green orchards and fields, flowing rivers with sparkling waters, went through the steep mountain ranges. They saw waterfalls on the way, and finally arrived at a small village called Nivrati, on the banks of the river Pravara, which is presently in Ahmednagar district. At the request of the inhabitants, they decided to settle there for a while. I'll stop at this stage. I think what happened in Nivrati, where he really spoke for several times, in about 3-4 years, completed discussion, writing, singing 9,000 Ovids, something that we'll discuss it in the next couple of sessions, but let's see how long it takes. I'm going to stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Shashi. Very good. Gyanadev, beautiful abungs. When he comes out of the cave, after being blessed by his older brother, Nivrati Prasad, he says, Saguna Manonki Nirgunare, Saguna Nirguna Yeku Govindure. Stula Manoki Sukshmare, Stula Sukshma Yeku Govindure. He also, in the end, he says, Nivrati Prasade, Gyanadeva Bhole. So you see, he pays obeisance to his brother for enlightening him, and then he tells you that everything is God, everything is Govinda. People call it Saguna, Nirguna, Stula, Sukshma, doesn't matter.
That was well said, Prasanna. Thank you.
The story of Gyanadev flying from a parapet.
I mean, I can tell you one story which is very important to understand is, as we'll study, even these saintly figures, as they're going through, have up and down too. And that's why, as we discussed last time on Bhaja Govindam, Sattangatve Nitsangatva. That's why you continue to meet in the company of good people, so that every once in a while you go off the line, other people are able to bring it back. When these children were, Prasanna, when they were in the town, after parents had moved on, people would not give them food. They had to beg. And they were good people who had they produced vegetables in their gardens, and they could see brilliant children with shining faces and bring the food for them without asking them. Where some people, so-called educated, would give these kids hard time. One Keshav Panta, somebody was bugging him, and Nyandev got angry because Nivrati and Sopan had gone to a different town. So Nyandev came back, got angry, closed the door completely, and Mukta had gone out to the river. And when she came back, the door was closed, which never happened. After knocking, and she knew that Nyande was supposed to be in the house by then. She says, I know you are there. Then he said, these people criticize it so badly that it's beating me up, bad words as well. So Muktabai tells him, Jnana, if you want to be a saint, you look at them all equally. Don't get mad with them. Treat them with equal respect. Be nice. And then Nyande wakes up a younger sister, younger than him by 4 years, teaching him to be a better person. And then he comes out, yeah, you're right. No, I'm not angry anymore. And open the door and they hug each other. The point is, you need to maintain good company, and that's how he was able to maintain. So the entire 4 siblings were fantastic, and we'll learn about their teachings in the next couple of sessions. I don't know how long it will take.